Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a feeling I bet a lot of you know. That feeling of being on a hamster wheel. You're constantly busy, you're always on, but you just don't feel like you're making real progress. So let's dive in and figure out why that happens, and more importantly, what we can do about it. So, does this hit close to home? Your calendar is just a wall of back-to-back meetings. Your inbox is a disaster. You're checking things off a to-do list, but at the end of the day, there's that nagging voice asking, what did I actually get done today? It's this exhausting cycle of just motion without any real forward momentum. And if you feel that way, trust me, you are so not alone. And this quote from electives.io just nails it. Our work culture, a lot of the time, rewards the appearance of being productive over actually producing anything impactful. We get that little dopamine hit from answering an email or finishing some small, easy task, even if it does nothing to move the needle on our biggest goals. It's a total trap, and it's kind of built into the way we work now. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to break it all down. We'll kick things off with a massive puzzle called the productivity paradox. Then we'll get into a really powerful new way of thinking, deep work versus shallow work. We'll explore the psychology of why we get so stuck in the shallow stuff, then give you a toolkit to reclaim your focus, and finally, tie it all together into what we could call a more focused life. All right, let's start with the big picture, because this isn't just a personal feeling, it's a huge economic mystery. We're living in this incredible age of technological leaps and bounds, so the big question is, why isn't our output reflecting that? I mean, you hear it from everyone. Top leaders like the former CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, tech gurus, you name it. They all agree innovation is happening at a dizzying pace. We've got AI, automation, tools that are more powerful than anything in human history. So logically, we should be more productive than ever, right? But are we? Well, the hard data tells a pretty shocking story. The numbers show that U.S. labor productivity growth was actually cut by more than half after 2004. So at the exact same time innovation was supposedly exploding, our actual ability to produce value was slowing way, way down. That's a serious disconnect. This leads us to what's essentially a modern version of the Silo paradox. We're surrounded by world-changing tech, but it's just not showing up in the numbers that matter. And that's a huge clue, isn't it? It suggests the problem isn't the technology, it's how we're using it. Which brings us to a whole new framework for our work. So how do we solve this thing? Well, author Cal Newport has this brilliant framework that I think cuts right to the heart of it. He argues it's not about working more hours, it's about understanding that there are two totally different kinds of work. First, you've got deep work. This is the good stuff. This is when you are in a state of pure, distraction-free concentration, pushing your brain to its absolute limit. Think about a coder building a complex algorithm, a writer crafting a perfect chapter. It's hard, it takes intense focus, and it's what creates real value. This is the stuff that makes you better and, frankly, hard to replace. And then, on the flip side, there's shallow work. And this is pretty much all that busy work we were talking about. Answering emails, hopping on status meetings, posting on social media. These things don't really take much brain power. They keep you occupied, sure, but they don't create much new value, and almost anybody could do them. So let's just put it side by side. Deep work is hard, creates high value, makes you better at your job, and it's tough for someone else to do. Shallow work is easy, creates low value, and doesn't improve your skills at all. All of a sudden, the paradox starts to make a lot more sense. We've filled our super innovative workplaces with shallow work. Okay, so if deep work is obviously so much more valuable, why on earth do our days get completely hijacked by the shallow stuff? Well, the answer comes down to some pretty powerful psychological forces that are constantly working against us. The number one culprit is the principle of least resistance. It's pretty much what it sounds like. Our brains are wired to take the easy way out. Firing off a quick email just feels so much less demanding than sitting down to focus on a tough report for an hour straight. It's just human nature. And that problem gets way worse because of what Cal Newport calls the metric black hole. In knowledge work, it's almost impossible to measure the negative impact of doing shallow work. Like, what's the real cost of answering that email right away? You can't see it. The immediate cost of deep work is clear. You might seem unresponsive. But the massive long-term cost of being constantly responsive, like a half-finished strategic plan, is fuzzy. So we just keep doing it. This just goes to show how our intuition about productivity is often completely wrong. Let's take a study on sleep. When researchers restricted people's sleep, their performance on tasks that required concentration dropped by up to 20%. 20%. And that shows the devastating effect that even small, consistent sleep loss can have. We're wired to take the easy route of staying up a little later to get more done, but that path often leads us directly away from being effective at all the next day. So, how do we fight back? How do we actually get off the hamster wheel? Well, it's not about just having more willpower. It's about building systems and rituals that make deep work the default, not the exception. Let's walk through a few powerful strategies. First up, create a deep work ritual. Don't wait for inspiration to magically appear, because it won't. You need to decide ahead of time, where will I do this work? For how long? And what are the rules, like no internet, phone off? By taking the decision-making out of it, you save all your mental energy for the actual task. You want it to be as automatic as brushing your teeth. Now, just as important as starting is knowing when to stop. There's this psychological principle called the Zeigarnik effect, which says that unfinished tasks will just bounce around in your head, preventing you from ever truly resting. A shutdown ritual fixes this. At the end of the day, review every open loop, make a plan for it. This gives your brain permission to let go. And it sounds a little cheesy, but actually saying a phrase like "shutdown complete" out loud is a powerful cue that the workday is over. And for a masterclass in setting boundaries, just look at the physicist Richard Feynman. I love this quote from him. He literally decided to be actively irresponsible. He understood that every single time he said yes to a shallow request, he was actually saying no to a deep breakthrough. Being irresponsible with the trivial stuff is how you become responsible for the stuff that actually matters. Ultimately, though, this is about way more than just being productive. Embracing deep work can fundamentally change how you relate to your job, and it can transform it from a source of endless distraction into a source of genuine meaning. The whole philosophy here is to approach your work like a craftsman. A craftsman doesn't just invent meaning out of nothing. They find it in the skillful application of their trade, in the quality of their work. The meaning is already there, baked into the act of doing something well. And this, for me, is the most empowering idea of all. You don't need some special, rarefied job to find meaning in your work. What you need is a rarefied approach to the job you already have. It doesn't matter what your title is. Meaning comes from the skill and the depth you bring to the task in front of you. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. For just a minute, forget the endless to-do list, forget the inbox. What is the single most valuable, deep task in front of you right now? The one that, if you gave it your complete, undivided attention, could be a total game changer for you. Find it. And then protect the time to do it. That's your first step off the hamster wheel.